So it's 5 years to the day since that day where Sergio Aguero won the league for Manchester City. In the final moments of the game, the 93rd minute and 20 seconds in exactly, that ball hit the back of the net. And I was behind that very goal. And today I'm going to be talking about my memories of that day. Now, it started off weeks before. I mean, there's a massive build-up to the fixture. City were well behind Manchester United. We were, I think, 8 points at one point. And then suddenly, I think they lost to Wigan away from home and it all changed. We beat West Brom very comfortably at home. And then it was on. We had a game in hand, I think. And United, we still had to play them at home. And which we did. We beat United. And then we struggled through a game against Newcastle, who were 5th in the league. We beat them away from home. And at that point, you think, yes. You're thinking we've won the league. Everything this whole season had just built up. We'd won the FA Cup the year before, but the big prize really was the Premier League. And we've had so much stick for so many years from so many Manchester United fans which I'd known, or from the media, or even Alex Ferguson himself. And everything built up to this one day against QPR, knowing that we had to win against a team which were having the possibility of them being relegated. Bolton were playing on the same day away from home against Stoke, and if they lost, it meant that QPR stayed up, but QPR still had really to come to Manchester City to get a result. But at the time, before the game, I remember thinking, it doesn't really matter all too much who we're playing. I felt that perhaps it would work maybe in our favour, the fact that we were playing a team which had been pretty awful that entire season, that QPR team. And then it came down to the day itself, and we had friends over who came from Hungary, who'd been Manchester City fans for their entire lives, who'd moved, one moved over to Hungary, one moved up to Edinburgh in Scotland, and they both came down with their kids to the game. They bought their tickets well in advance, well before that there was any possibility of City actually winning a league. It was really going to be a meaningless end of the season game. But luckily, we turned things around and suddenly they had tickets to one of the biggest games in Manchester City's history of all time. So we went out the night before, had a meal, and we're talking about City stories which they've been to, my mum and stuff like that. And of course, then it came to the day of the game itself, and we arrived at the stadium. Of course, incredibly nervous, but also you have that twinge of excitement in you with the hope that you're going to win the league. You're almost expecting, perhaps, after beating Newcastle, after beating United, after turning things around and being on such a fantastic run of form, you're thinking, yes, this is the day. I brought my Manchester City flag from Wembley in 1999, and it was the flag which saw City draw 2-2 against Gillingham. And then eventually we won on penalties, courtesy of 2 late goals in that game, which was just absolutely ridiculous from Kevin Horlock and Paul Dickoff. I was far too young to remember that game, but I'd been a City supporter. I remember us getting promoted. I was there the day we got promoted. I remember seeing us lift the trophy and had a season ticket since we moved to the new stadium. And it finally culminated in probably one of the biggest moments of my life, really. And the game started off, it was a pretty terrible first half, in all honesty. It was very, very poor. It was sort of nervy, everyone was a bit agitated, and eventually we got that goal, and it just seemed like the whole world had just lifted. I mean, there was so much pressure on us, and it just felt at that point, yes, we've done it, finally we've done it. And at the same time, Bolton were losing to Stoke. They were originally winning in that game. So there was big pressure on QPR. But then Stoke pulled one back, and then in the second half they scored as well, so it seemed like at that point, yes, we've finally done it. I mean, the goal which we scored from Zabaleta, every time I watch it, it was so scrappy. It was such a terrible finish. The goalkeeping was absolutely awful. And at that point, you just think, right, we've done it. We've finally done it. We just have to hold on now for the rest of this game, and we've finally done it. But then the second half came out, and Yaya Toure went off at half-time injured, and he was probably one of the key players that year. He scored the key goals against Newcastle the week before, and it finally felt that, okay, maybe he's come off, we're just settling things, De Jong will come on. But then it sort of changed in the second half, and it came from absolutely nothing, and it sort of shocked us. I think the whole team was incredibly shocked, I myself included. It was just a poor backwards header from Lescott, and I remember just sitting there. It's the opposite end of the goal to me. It's the complete opposite end of the ground. He's just nodded it on, and Jibril Cisse scored an absolute worldie, and it felt as if the whole world had sort of collapsed down on you at that very point, even though there was so much time left in the game. And we come back so many times that season. it still felt as though, yes, perhaps we may have bottled it at this stage. And it was such an unreal finish from a team which had done pretty much nothing the entire game. I think that was probably one of their first shots on target the whole game, and it was just a little knock-on from Lescott by accident, and it eventually just fell to his feet. And I just remember just being absolutely devastated at the time, just thinking of the draw, and then it got worse. I mean, Joey Barton was sent off, and at that point you're thinking, yeah, okay, I was just so angry at that stage. I remember feeling just frustrated, hating Joey Barton. We've been a Manchester City player. This was a QPR team with three ex-Manchester City players playing on that pitch on that very day, plus Mark Hughes, a former Manchester City manager. And it seemed at that point, I don't understand how this is happening, but all these ex-Manchester City players are sort of turning against us in a way. And Joey Barton was sent off, and you're thinking, right, we've got 10 men. They're just going to sit back. We have to just attack them. There's plenty of time still left in the game. And then it was just a counter-attack, and Jamie Mackie scored. And I remember just hitting the ground. It sounds so dramatic, but I was just on my knees and just slipped off my seat, and genuinely I couldn't believe what was happening. You couldn't hear a pin drop from the Manchester City end that day. And for the remaining 20 minutes of the game up until the 90th minute, we were just terrible. I don't know what happened. We just kept on creating chance after chance. And Paddy Kenny, who was so bad in the first half, he made so many mistakes. He was at fault for the goal. He made a couple of mistakes beforehand we could have scored earlier. In the second half, he just turned into this absolutely unbelievable keeper, which I have no idea how he managed to do it. He went from Neuer in the second half. I just don't really, to this day, understand where this incredible performance came from. And he was saving everything. Nothing seemed to be going in. And at the same time, United was still winning in their fixture. And I just remember being absolutely devastated, really. I've got to be honest with you. It was the thought of United winning the title, having to go back into school the next day. I was 16 at the time, just before my GCSE exams, and just thinking, going into school the next day is going to be absolutely horrible, just knowing that you had the chance of winning the title and you've just gifted Manchester United their 20th ever title. It was just horrific. And everyone around me was just absolutely devastated, sort of shocked. It's sort of what I imagine people in the First World War, that shell shock sort of look, when people after a battle just stood there and are thinking, what the hell's just happened? What's going on? How we just witnessed this? What's in front of us? I mean, we were set up in that whole first half to beat them, and we were beating them, and they scored from absolutely nothing. I mean, even Jamie Mackie's goal, he heads that into the ground and it goes in. I mean, some of their goals were just absolutely unreal. It was at the time we're thinking, this is a QPR team which haven't been able to score all season at all, and then they've just mustered this unreal performance from absolutely nowhere. And I remember just wanting to leave. To be honest with you, I just wanted to leave. I didn't want to see it, and I never leave games early, and I just wanted to go. But luckily, my mum was like, no, we're staying to the end. Whatever happens, we're staying to the end. And we did. And we created corner after corner, and Kenny just kept on saving them. And then eventually, Dzeko scored. And you're just thinking, right, okay, game on. It was sort of like you're half celebrating, but you're sort of not. But you knew that it was sort of going to mean something. It was just like, we're still in this. So you sort of part celebrated, part didn't. But the feeling of it was just kind of strange. And then around us at the time, because of course with mobile phones and everyone being connected, and someone said near us that Sunderland had scored an equaliser late on in the game. And at that point, around us, I thought, and a lot of us around where I sit, especially just behind the goal, to the left-hand side, thought that we'd actually already won the title before the Aguero goal had actually gone in. But there's a part of me, of course, at the time, which didn't believe it. That whole day, people kept on saying rumours like, someone else has scored, but you're never really sure if any of that's actually really happened. And then eventually the ball, I just remember that goal, I've got such a vivid memory of it, but there's so many things which stand out so clearly from my mind of where I was sitting. I mean, I think it was Sean Wright-Phillips. He ran the ball down the line and he sort of got tackled and went out. And then I think the ball gets thrown in and De Jong just plays the ball at the pitch. And there's 3 or 4 QPR players around him and he just lays it into Aguero. And Balotelli just does so well to hold it up and he just knocks into Aguero. And at that point, I still have the image in my mind of Aguero just going through on goal. And then, if you watch it, Taiwo clips him. He very, very clearly just takes his leg, but he still has that commitment and the drive just to smash that ball home. And then when he does, it was the greatest feeling I think I've ever had. I mean, people always say, like, why do people spend so much money on football and devote so much time to caring about football games and things like that? I think it's because of moments like that. I mean, the reality is that football is like a drug. I mean, every single time I go to a football game, you want to experience that exact same feeling of that same goal from Sergio Aguero. I mean, I think to this day, it will always be the greatest day of my life, that thing. No matter what happens, people will say, getting married, having your first child, all that sort of stuff, but for me, I don't feel like it'll ever get better than that very moment right there. Everything about it was just the build up to the game, having your friends over from Hungary who very rarely come to City, but being massive Manchester City fans from since when they were kids. Being there with my mum, who's been a season ticket holder pretty much her whole life now, and she's never really seen City win anything in her entire life. And to have that moment where the ball goes in the back of the net, just celebrating with every single person around you, not really knowing what's going on, and just being in floods of tears, really. That's one thing I remember. I still can feel, every time I watch that goal, the goosebumps and the feeling of it is just absolutely unbelievable, really, whenever you watch it. It's strange to think, how can a goal or a moment in football matter so much to you, but it really does. And then after the game, just sort of sat there like, that's just typical City. Nothing will ever be able to compare to it. No other team will do that. I know other teams have come close to doing it or won the league on the last day. I mean, Arsenal did it. Lots of other teams, I imagine, all across the world will win the league on the last day. But it was just the whole factor of being 2-1 down. I mean, completely dead and out of it. 3 minutes to go, and we've just banged in 3 goals. I mean, it's still absolutely unreal. And every time I watch that goal, I get completely massive goosebumps. And the fact that I was there, being behind the goal, it just means so much to me. And I was so fortunate to be able to see it. And you know, it puts things into perspective when you think of how shit football at times can be. And you just think, well, that if I've had that one moment, it's sort of all worth it, really. And it's sort of crazy. It's absolutely ridiculous to be talking about a football game like that, but that's how much it really does mean to me. And every single time I watch that goal, it just brings back so many memories. And then after the game, of course, everyone's running on the pitch. I didn't go on the pitch because I was told, lots of people are saying that we don't actually get the trophy if people go on the pitch. And I don't remember seeing many other Premier League teams when they've won the title actually go on the pitch, but we seem to be on it every single time we've done it. I went on it the second time, but there's a picture of me after the game and my friends and my mum and everyone just sat there, and I've put the picture on the screen right now, and everyone is just a wreck, like genuinely a wreck. I mean, it's 5 years ago, but it feels so like yesterday. I can't believe it. I mean, I was just about to sit my GCSEs at the time, and now I'm a couple of days away from finishing my last ever exam at university, and then that's it. So it's kind of crazy. So many things have happened in those years, but that goal, it just feels like yesterday. It's absolutely ridiculous. But that's my memories of the day. If you guys have any memories of that goal in particular, please let me know down in the comments section down below. I don't know if I can explain it. It's one of those things which is just beyond words. It completely goes beyond the dictionary of the English language. I mean, from that point on, you just knew that something was very special perhaps happening at City, and that was just justification behind it. I think George Bush, the first George Bush president, senior, after the end of the Cold War, that's what I'm comparing Manchester City and Manchester United's relationship until we won the league as the Cold War. Until America won the Cold War, and after it, he described there being a new world order, and I'd like to think that that's what perhaps has happened in Manchester recently. Although we haven't won much this year, or anything at all, and United perhaps can win 2 things, I like to think that perhaps from that goal things have changed massively. Not just in my life, but also in terms of Manchester City and football in general. So there you go, that's my memories. Arrivederci.